You want power without theater, resolve without noise, and results that remain when your speeches are forgotten. You already know the world does not care about your idealism unless it is harnessed to force and timing. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote for men who must hold a line when the wind is hostile, when the city is restless, when friends are as dangerous as enemies. He did not hand out permission slips for cruelty. He handed out a blueprint for survival under pressure. Begin with the sentence that offends gentle ears and calms serious minds. It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Love is a favor that visits and leaves. Fear, when it is clean and predictable, keeps the gate shut. Fear here is not panic. It is the settled knowledge that you will enforce a boundary without drama and without delay. You do not have to shout. You do not have to humiliate. You have to keep your word when your word includes consequences. And in the same breath, you must avoid hatred at all costs. Hatred is not the same as fear. Hatred makes men plot at night. Hatred multiplies the hours in which your name is used as fuel. Fear without hatred is the ideal because it leaves no residue. Men will step carefully in the daylight and sleep at night without composing your downfall. If you must injure, injure once and clearly. If you must deny, deny without mocking. The man you humiliate becomes a coin that never stops paying for speeches against you. Men judge more by appearances than by reality. Machiavelli's sentence is an insult if you wish it to be. It is also a lever if you dare to pick it up. Your audience is mostly eyes. Few people are close enough to feel your hands at work where the gears grind. Do not complain about this. Design for it. Appear virtuous, even when acting otherwise. This is not a license to betray your own standards. It is a reminder that the symbol must be managed, or it will be managed against you. Wear restraint like a uniform. Speak sparingly. Let the visible parts of your life be clear and disciplined, so that the necessary ugliness of maintenance remains backstage where it belongs. Francis Bacon would nod, not as a moralist, but as a mechanic. A wise man will make more opportunities than he finds. Appearances are not lies when they are built on habits that are real. They are signals that keep lesser minds from inventing stories that waste your time. The end justifies the means when survival is at stake. The sentence has been abused by children who want to feel ruthless without paying the bill for their thoughtlessness. You are not a child. Survival can be the survival of a state, a firm, a family, a reputation without which all other goods become unworkable. When survival is the end, you do not negotiate with sentimentality. You choose the least destructive effective method, and you execute it fully. When survival is not at stake, the end does not automatically justify the means. The means then are part of the end because you must live with yourself tomorrow, and you must recruit men who will not flee your camp in disgust next year. Hobbes places a weight on the table that cannot be lifted with slogans. Covenants without the sword are but words. This is not romance for violence. It is a map for reality. Without enforcement, good intentions are decorations. With enforcement that breeds hatred, your covenant becomes a bonfire. Keep the sword. Keep the restraint. Choose both or lose both. Cruelty must be swift, decisive, and limited. The worst cruelty is the slow kind that drips fear into the water until everyone in the city drinks it and begins to hallucinate enemies in every alley. If punishment is required to restore order, deliver it once, completely, with explanation kept to the minimum that preserves dignity for the obedient and clarity for the disobedient. Then stop. Weak mercy invites greater disorder. The longer you hesitate to fix decay, the more expensive the fix becomes. If you refuse to repair a breached wall because you dislike the sight of mortar, do not cry when the flood enters your living room. Mercy is strongest after justice has done its work. Mercy without justice is an invitation to predators to use your kindness as camouflage. Human nature is self-interested, fickle, and fearful. Your policies must respect this, or they will be eaten alive by it. People respond to incentives, to rhythms, to visible fairness, to reliable procedures. They do not respond well to sermons that require them to be angels. Build for the creature that exists, not for the mythical citizen who treats inconvenience as a sacrament. Machiavelli does not hate mankind. He refuses to pretend that terror, envy, laziness, ambition, and hunger will ever vanish from the species. Hobbes goes further and strips the poetry out of the picture until all that remains is the tool. The condition of man is a condition of war of everyone against everyone, whenever there is no common power to keep all in awe. If you do not wish to live in that condition, build the common power and keep it legitimate enough that men accept it without needing to be beaten daily to remember why. A ruler must be both lion and fox, strong and cunning. The lion frightens wolves. The fox recognizes traps. If you only roar, hunters smile and dig pits. If you only scheme, wolves learn there is no bite behind your grin. Learn to switch masks without losing your face. Switch calmly. Switch on purpose. Use strength to close a chapter. Use cunning to open the next one on terrain you have chosen. The lion shows up in public when it is time to end confusion. The fox walks private corridors where deals are made and deadlocks are eased without cameras. Neither animal survives alone. Neutrality is weakness. Choose sides decisively. When two powers contest the ground, and you stand aside, praying to inherit the field without paying the cost, you volunteer to be the post they both use to tie their horses. If the fight is equal, choose the side whose victory you can survive and help it become non-equal. If the fight is unequal, choose the stronger and nail your loyalty to its gate in useful acts, not fan letters. Do not split the difference when the moment demands a color. Men respect a defined ally and a defined rival. They despise a man who is always available to the winner. Your lack of enemies is not maturity. It is a sign that no one takes you seriously enough to count you in the arithmetic of the day. Fortune favors the bold, not the cautious. Fortune is not a mother. Fortune is weather. Boldness here is not tantrum. It is speed married to aim. You will be offered 1,000 small chances to move while the rival is still checking his hair. Take them. You will be offered 100 soft excuses to delay because your plan is not perfect. Refuse them. Boldness burns away the fog of other men's hesitations. Boldness takes the field not by screaming, but by stepping first, again and again, until the habit of firstness is your brand and their dread. Boldness without logistics is a suicide note. Boldness with supply lines is a calendar that writes itself in your favor. Adaptability determines survival. The plan you love will betray you at the first bend in the river. Change the plan and keep the aim. Machiavelli respected men who could change conduct with the times. He did not praise men who changed principles with the weather. Learn to turn your formations inside out without losing your line. Learn to translate your policy into new idioms without changing its verbs. The habit of adaptation is not fashionable inconsistency. It is fidelity to the result under different constraints. The man who cannot adapt will call his stubbornness integrity. The man who can adapt will call his flexibility service to the end he promised. The calendar will decide which man was honest. Power is easier to gain than to maintain. Gaining power is a story you can tell in 2 acts: a bold move, a surprised audience. Maintaining power is a story you must tell each day in small deeds that look boring to men who only worship coups. Pay on time. Rotate commands before ambition festers. Audit the tax collector before the people decide to do it with ropes. Visit the garrison before rumor visits it first. Designate a successor before vultures write their own names on your door. The show is short. Administration is long. If you cannot love the long, you will return your crown for repairs every season and discover that the repair shop has closed. Armed strength is more reliable than promises. Promises are good when backed by force and structure that make them cheap to keep. Promises that require a miracle to fulfill are not promises. They are insults with pretty bows. Covenants without the sword are but words, Hobbes repeats, and the phrase is ugly only to men who do not pay the bill when covenants fail. Arms do not mean aggression. Arms mean that when a treaty is signed, there is a reason for all parties to support it beyond mood. If you are armed, your rival's promises suddenly become more honest. If you are unarmed, your prose must do the work of iron, and prose is light. Mercenaries are dangerous and disloyal. They love your coin and hate your cause. They will fight bravely when the camera is on and vanish when the hill bleeds. Hire them to buy time only if you must. Train your own to buy the future. The man paid only in gold will sell you for more gold. The man paid in belonging will not. Machiavelli did not write this as poetry. He wrote it because he watched cities burn under banners that meant nothing to the men holding them. Rent bought you a season. Culture buys you a century. Control reputation, or it will control you. If you do not tend the story told about you, factions with time to spare will write it for you and charge you rent to live under its roof. Reputation is a supply line that feeds all your actions with trust or starves them with suspicion. Keep it simple. Be seen where you should be seen. Be unseen where you should be unseen. Speak rarely and specifically. Deliver on schedule. When you are blamed, answer once with facts and return to work. When you are praised, accept the weather and return to work. The point of reputation is not to feel admired. It is to lower the friction of governing. A good name means the gate opens with fewer knocks. Innovation invites enemies and must be enforced. Every improvement humiliates someone who profited from the old arrangement. They will not clap for their own obsolescence. They will organize. Plan for this. When you introduce a reform, do not leave it half-baked. Nail it in place with procedures, budgets, personnel, and a publicly visible timeline. Celebrate the men who benefit from the new order loudly enough that they see themselves as a coalition. Neutralize the men who lose status, not with poison, but with clear boundaries and offers that redirect their ambition into useful lanes. If your innovation depends on your daily presence to survive, it is not an innovation. It is a hobby. Popular support matters more than elite approval. The elite can wound you in salons and slow you in committees. The people can drown you in squares. The elite can flatter you into an echo chamber where jokes get louder and facts become suggestions. The people will remind you whether bread is arriving and whether justice resembles justice. Machiavelli was not a romantic populist. He was a realist who understood that a prince who stands on a hill of nobles stands on a heap of grudges. A prince who stands in a field of citizens stands on something that repairs itself if you feed it properly. Do not despise the crowd's basic needs. Meet them before you craft a poem. The stability of the state outweighs all moral ideals. This is the hardest and clearest line in the book. If the ship sinks, there is no stage left on which to perform your principles. Stability is not stagnation. It is the condition that allows argument, art, trade, law, education, and even reform. Without it, The best ideas die in fires, lit by men who only know how to break. When the choice is between a painful measure now and riots that will devour the innocent later, you are not choosing between good and evil. You are choosing between two evils and refusing to pretend there was an angelic third option hiding under the table. You will be accused of cruelty by men who will not be in the square when the windows shatter. Accept the accusation, not the guidance. Look at your day and count where these principles actually live. Better to be feared than loved is a policy in your home when your child learns that your no is a wall, not a mood. Avoid hatred is a policy in your firm when you cut a program without sneering at the people who invested their pride in it. Appear virtuous is a policy in your calendar when your public commitments are few and kept. Men judge by appearances is a policy in your hiring when you stop pretending that manners do not matter in a role that is 90% signal. The end justifies the means when survival is at stake is a policy in your crisis plan when you decide in advance what you will do if supply chains fail instead of writing slogans about resilience and calling that a plan. Cruelty must be swift is a policy in your discipline when you address the actual breach without attaching a lecture about character. Weak mercy invites disorder is a policy in your streets when petty crimes are addressed before they grow fangs. Human nature is self-interested is a policy in your budgeting when you stop assuming volunteers will carry the whole load forever and begin to build paid roles that ensure reliability. Be lion and fox is a policy in your negotiations when you pair hard deadlines with soft listening and never confuse tone for outcome. Neutrality is weakness is a policy in your alliances when a supplier is attacked and you do not wait to see who looks stronger in the comments. Boldness is a policy in your product when you launch the working version that frightens you instead of polishing the fantasy that flatters you. Adaptability is a policy in your posture when you switch a failing channel without secretly resenting the new channel for not being the old one. Power is easier to gain than maintain is a policy in your habits when you set review cadences now instead of waiting for the chaos to remind you rudely. Armed strength is more reliable than promises is a policy in your contracts when you back them with escrow instead of vibes. Mercenaries are dangerous is a policy in your team when you stop outsourcing core functions to people who do not share the cost of failure. Control reputation is a policy in your communication when you publish bad news yourself and refuse to let your rivals dribble it out for sport. Innovation invites enemies is a policy in your rollouts when you preempt the backlash with a map of who loses what and how the system absorbs them or restrains them. Popular support matters is a policy in your service design when the front line gets the first and best tools, not the last and cheapest ones. Stability outweighs ideals is a policy in your reforms when you timetable them to avoid stacking shocks. None of this is pretty. All of this is clean, if you do it without gloating and without apology. If you want a small number of sentences to carry as anchors, let them be the ones that have paid for their place with history. Machiavelli's iron. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Hold it next to his other iron so you do not misread the first. Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, for everyone can see and few can feel. Add the animal line and let it settle in your spine. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. And keep the weather report that keeps your vanity from turning victory into religion. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. Then borrow Hobbes when you are tempted to think that paper alone will save you. Covenants, without the sword, are but words. Quotes are not fashion, they are nails. Hang your policies on them, or do not hang them at all. You will be accused of cynicism for taking these lessons seriously. Cynicism is the belief that people are only self-interested. Realism is the knowledge that self-interest exists and must be governed, not denied. Machiavelli wrote about governing self-interest so that common life could exist between floods. He did not hand out medals for hardness. He handed out a craft to men who understood that softness, when ungoverned, creates the most cruelty of all by refusing to act until action is expensive. You do not have to like the world to govern it well. You have to look at it without flinching. Ask yourself the questions that keep your hands clean while they work in dirt. If fear is the tool today, have I used just enough and no more? If virtue is the mask, is there a face beneath it that can stand alone when the room is empty? If I must injure, is it one cut and done, or am I playing with my food? If my mercy has grown so large that it hides rot, do I love my reputation more than the people I am supposed to keep safe? If I call men fickle, have I built anything steady for them to stand on? If I roar like a lion, is there a fox awake in me, listening for the trap? If I pause between sides, am I preserving options or trading away respect? If I preach boldness, has my warehouse counted the cost? If I worship adaptability, am I changing costumes or adjusting force toward the same end? If I delight that power has arrived, have I scheduled maintenance or only parties? If I sign a covenant, is there a sword to make it real? If I hire talent, do they eat with us or rent us for a season? If I love my reputation, do I serve it or does it serve the work? If I announce a reform, have I bolted it to the floor? If I bask in elite smiles, have I fed the street? If I lift a banner of ideals, does the city beneath it have bread and quiet? You will not get every cut right. You will overcorrect. You will undercorrect. You will learn which advisors love your comfort and which love your survival. You will be tempted to shout your strength when silence would win, and to whisper your standards when a public line would save 100 private arguments. The correction is not found in mood. It is found in returning, again and again, to the grammar of rule that Machiavelli sketched in sentences sharper than swords. Without enforcement, plans are fantasies. Without restraint, force is vandalism. Without design, virtue is noise. Without popular footing, elite consent is brittle. Without clarity, mercy is a costume. Without speed, size is sleepy. Without adaptability, victory calcifies into a relic. Without succession, triumph becomes a museum tour of your own decline. Without stability, ideals cannot breathe. And without the willingness to be judged by eyes, you will spend your life giving guided tours of your hands. You are not asked to become a villain. You are asked to become dangerous to chaos. You are not asked to love fear. You are asked to wield it like a measured tool. You are not asked to despise love. You are asked to refuse dependence on adoration. You are not asked to lie about your methods. You are asked to keep certain methods where they belong, inside the workshop, after hours, when maintenance is done, and the machine must run tomorrow without your speech. You are not asked to star in your city. You are asked to build one. The lessons stand not as slogans, but as rails. Put your weight on them. Drive the load. Keep your face toward the end that allows men to sleep, children to learn, markets to open, art to live, and argument to happen without knives. If someone calls that cold, let them hold a city for one winter and then return to you with warmer advice. If they do, listen. If they do not, keep working. The day will come when you must choose between an easy ethics that preserves your applause and a hard policy that preserves the roof. Choose the roof. The night will come when you must decide whether your kindness is healing citizens or feeding wolves. Choose the citizen and starve the wolf in public once so you do not feed him in private forever. A season will come when your plan is aged and men have grown fat under its protection, and young rivals describe you as tired. Change your conduct with the times before the times change you without asking permission. A moment will come when you have to write your own ending. Write it with the same hand that wrote your beginning. Train the one who will sit where you sit. Lock in the simple routines that keep chaos bored. Shake the hands that still matter. Let the rest talk to the air. Then leave your desk without ceremony. The city will talk about your face for a week. It will live with your policies for years. If you have done this right, the children will not know your name because their fathers did not have to shout it at dinner. The water runs, the bread arrives, the school bell sounds. The night is uneventful. The enemies of order look smaller in daylight. The friends of ease look braver because the system treats them gently. That is the only monument that matters to men like you and to men like Machiavelli, who watched cities rise and fall and wrote for the ones who refused to pretend that good requires no defense. Hold the line, adjust the sight, cut once, build long, and let the results do your talking when the hall is empty.